Sal Cosenza.
And welcome to Abstract Essay. Abstract Essay is created to empower artists like us. Right, Mr. Sal?
Hey, you know it, Daniel.
Definitely another week, another great episode on Abstract Essay. Magnificent painting of Mr. Sal. Or paintings today, or painting.
So, paintings and sketches.
Oh, paintings and sketches,
Yes.
people. So, with no further ado, let's do
Let's
the drum roll.
let's do it, and let me share screen. No?
Oh, perfect.
Did it work?
Did work
Hey, for the
100%
first time.
for the first time.
Nice. Okay. So,
That's
what the heck are
awesome.
we looking at?
What is that, Mr. Sal? Awesome, magnificent painting
Who,
of yours.
who did this? I'm just kidding.
Mr. Sal Cosenza from Arizona. But
Yes.
he's residing in New York for 4 years?
7 years. A 7 year.
7 years.
Yes. And this one was done in New York. This was hanging on my little apartment, little closet of an apartment bedroom, on the wall for about 2 years. It
Two
was, it was,
years.
yeah. So, what we're looking at is a painting called Out of the Darkness into the Light. It was
Mm,
completed in 2018. And I started it in 2016, and I remember stretching the canvas. It's one of my bigger pieces. It's 37 inches by 72 inches. I had to prime the canvas. It's to this day, I don't think it's framed or on any sort of wooden border. It's the idea was to create like a treasure map. Yeah, and I wanted the canvas to look like a treasured map, which is why you have these torn edges sort of shown, right? It's like a piece of a map. But the backstory here is I was when I was in New York, I wanted to do something different. I was working on the domestic New York paintings, which we saw last episode, but I also wanted to sort of take a bit of a break from that series. And, I'm thinking to myself, I could make a series of small paintings, I could, whatever, or I could go big, right? And I
yes.
wanted I wanted to go big. And I wanted this piece to sort of do something productive as opposed to just, you know, go in a gallery and be purchased. I mean, I'm grateful anytime I sell a painting. I'm grateful that anyone would even buy it. But there's also other aspects to art that could perhaps be a little more impactful from a social standpoint. So I wanted to create something that was off the bat, some sort of a fundraiser, a painting that would raise money for a good cause. And I've had this long-standing partnership with Art One Gallery in Arizona, and they have a partnership with an organization called the Autism Academy, which is located still to this day throughout Arizona. I think they have like 3 campuses throughout the state. And so I had this just bright idea one day that I'm going to produce a piece. I'm going to donate the piece to
Yes.
the Autism Academy, and then I wanted to raise funds by selling prints, and I still have some of those. So at this event, people would buy prints, and then all of that money would go towards the Autism Academy. And Art One Gallery was gracious enough to host the event. And so, I had this idea. Um, I pitched it to Art One. They were great. They were like really happy about the idea. They supported it, and they hooked me up with Amy Floyd, who's also an artist. and Amy Floyd at the time was sort of the coordinator for the Autism Academy. I reached out to her. We got this thing going, and all I had to do was paint it. And that
Yes.
was that was the that's where the challenge is, because it's like, okay, what ideas do I have? So I wanted some sort of a pirate theme. Again, I'm sort of taking a little break from the New York skyscrapers and right, the buildings in love and all that stuff. So I had this idea of like an adventure. And so I started doing a lot of sketches. So you can see on the left here some early drafts, like early ideas, different types of hats that they would wear. I looked at a lot of like classic paintings of pirates. I rewatched the movie Hook. I don't know if you saw
Captain
Hook.
Hook.
Yeah. And I was just sort of getting in touch with my pirate side. And so, I did a few sketches here. Here's another one. This was an early sketch. This is from 2016. I wanted sharks. I wanted strange, scary looking rock islands in the background and seagulls and some sort of a boat. And I wanted the adventure seekers in the foreground. And, I'm thinking make them like make young adventurers, right?
Mm.
And so here they are. Um, one of them has a compass, one of them has a map, and one of them has a telescope. And there's a level of danger implied. I show the Autism Academy. That's the symbol.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
so I show that on top of the ship. And so here's what you got. Here's the end result. It took quite a while. Again, I painted it on the wall of my apartment,
Uh-huh.
uh, and it was a very, we're talking a very tiny little space where I had a loft bed. My roommates
Mhm.
still, we joke about it to this day. It was a bed that was 6 feet up in the air because I I tried to make use of all the square footage in this little room. So
Yes.
I built a little desk underneath the bed, and I would have to sort of creep underneath to work on it. So you have this loft bed taking up 3/4 of the room, and then on the wall next to the radiator, anyone who lives in an apartment in the East Coast would know what I mean. You have that whistly, I don't know, do you have one perchance, Daniel? You know that
Yeah.
whistly radiator? Like
Yes,
in the winter, it's like
true.
you feel
Yes.
like it's gonna just you don't know what it's gonna do.
Yes.
But so I had that on one in the corner, and right above it was this giant canvas that was just pinned up on the wall. Um, so as I mentioned, I had to first prime it, right? I had to put a coat of just primer just to, because it was a raw piece of canvas, the paint would have seeped right underneath and then, hit my wall. I would have been painting the wall itself. Um, so once that was done, then the typical method, I used every trick that I had in terms of painting technique. I started with the background. I wanted a sky that was sort of evocative of adventure in some way. So I have, very dynamic clouds. There's a lot of movement going on. You have a sunset, or maybe it's a sunrise. We don't really know. And then you have this real, atmospheric layering showcasing the various rock outcroppings. Um, and so, there's also that strange ship at the right side, sort of in silhouette, sort of racing against the sun. Um, we don't really know, whose ship that is. There are seagulls, and then you have the ship in the foreground, which is our three adventure seekers. Um, so it was a fun one to create, and I've got some descriptions here. So I mentioned I started painting this in November of 2016. It was completed in New York in June of 2018, and it was meant to be exhibited during Art One Gallery's 25th anniversary. So it sort of made its debut at during that event. So we have a pirate theme piece, uh, you know, and I have a poem here. I can read it really quick.
Go.
So have our three seafaring explorers finally met their match? While that answer is unclear, there's definitely something in the distance. Faint at first and hard to make out from the fog, the monolithic objects soon emerged from their abyss. The map was right. These were the islands they were searching for. You know, skipping. Dis- Despite any concerns, our heroes are a brave bunch, and they carry in their hearts a burning desire to take on the quest. As their sea hardened vessel collides defiantly with the waves of an island that wants them out, they inch closer and closer to destiny. The ship finally bests the tide, and our three young explorers know now that there is no turning back. Light and dark are no longer opposing forces, for the horizon can join them as one. So again, it's a piece about it's meant to inspire. It's meant to cause one to want to go on an adventure, to seek out something, right, and to sort of brave the elements and to brave any issues that come along with taking a risk. And so I have a lot of exhibition photos from the event. It was called the Out of the Darkness into the Light meet and greet,
Yes.
and it happened the day before my birthday. So I flew to Arizona for this, and it was a good event. So here's Amy Floyd, who's the artist I mentioned, and she was an art teacher at the time. I'm also here's Laura Newcomb, who was the Autism Academy owner at the time. And again, the event was held at Art One. Here I am with a future mayor, David Ortega, who's been a good friend and mentor to me. Um, Here I am with my parents on the right. Or here's David Ortega, Rosemary, his wife, and my mom and my dad. And then here's my brother Carl, my niece Isabella, my sister-in-law Anna, and myself. And so here was the painting behind us. We got a good turnout. We raised a few $100, and that money went towards the Autism Academy, and they were able to purchase a 3D printer with that. And 3D printers are things that a lot of architecture students use. Um, but it was a great event. It was a moment where I sort of felt that art could do something beyond the usual,
Certainly.
right? And it really became addicting. I remember coming home that night thinking about what had happened and then sort of saying, okay, I want to do another one of these because this feels it's very addictive to to produce something that then sort of lives beyond you. It's sort of, you know, I have this sort of phrase with my students. It's to put your work to work, right? So this idea of whatever you're working on should sort of have its own, should take on its own thing. It should grow, and it's almost like raising kids. You want your children to do well and to do good eventually, right? So I really feel this personal connection with any painting I do, which is, I almost in a weird way like see them as a kid of mine or something. But it's an extension of who you are, right? And so to see the painting do something is worthwhile. So I recommend it to any creative person who, you don't just have to show your work in a gallery, or whatever. Like you can put it to work. Um,
Certainly.
So that's out of the darkness into the light.
Out to the darkness, to the
Yes.
light. Thank you so much for sharing your painting to the world, Mr. Saul, and helping our autism community. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for
And
empowering.
again, thank you. And I couldn't have done that event without Art One Gallery. They're to this day, so they're going on like 30 plus years now. They're a local gallery in Scottsdale, Arizona. They show a lot of high school art, and any high schooler who shows their work there gets 100% of the commission. They have a foundation as well, and they raise a lot of money for art supplies for local schools. So Art One, I'll never stop advocating for them because it's a rare gallery that does do work beyond the gallery walls. You know, they do a lot of public outreach.
So, Mr. Saul, what would be your advice for those people out there who want to start painting and to do what you are doing right now?
I think just break the ice, don't be too concerned with this is something I tell myself, something I also tell my students. Don't be concerned with if it's good or if it's bad. Like don't think about what others are going to say about it or how others will perceive it. Just get it out there. Get your ideas out onto a sheet of paper or a canvas or a sculpture or a music piece. Like write it down, get it out of your mind and onto a surface. And don't think too hard into it. It's kind of like jumping into the deep end of a pool. It's like if you're a first time swimmer, it's kind of, should I do this? But the answer is yes. Like you just have to jump into it and then deal with the consequences,
Later.
Um, yeah, hope there's a lifeguard, but you can't not do it. If you have the idea, you have to just like fight to get it out of your head. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, Mr. Sal, and thank you for your advice. So, how about the approach of color selection and blending? How did you do that?
Yeah, so I wanted a sky that was moody, right? It had to have a sort of a sense of an element of danger had to be present. I didn't want it to be depressing or hellish, right? Like I didn't want it to be apocalyptic. I've made some paintings that have like apocalyptic looking skies. This one had to have a little bit of danger, but not be too dark. Because again, it's a story about adventure. I think any great book or movie or whatever about adventure has a little bit of danger attached to it, but not like depression. So my color palette is all based on that sense of adventure with a little bit of menace underneath, right? Um, yeah, and then there's a lot of atmospheric layering. I remember like large brushes. Once I painted an object, like one of those background mountains, I would then give it a wash of uh, white paint usually, but almost watery, like a watery application. And if you do that, if you keep layering in that way, it starts to offer a real sense of atmospheric haze to the object, and it allows you to really differentiate like what's in the foreground and what's in the backmost layer just by giving it like a wash of
Wow,
white. So I
awesome.
I, I use that technique, I think, to pretty good effect, I think, in this piece.
So, Mr. Sal, what is the challenging part in creating that painting?
The challenge was to to work on it and again to work on it in my little apartment, my little room. I never did anything like that before, and I have yet to do it again. I once painted on the floor this giant, like, 6-paneled canvas, like the size of a room, but that was a different method. This one was really difficult just to produce. And then I had this sort of I not self-imposed. I had a time crunch, right? Because the event was happening on this date of this year, so I had to be sure to get it done. And then shipping, shipping is silly, but um, I had to ship this afterwards to Arizona,
Yes.
and then I had to fly to Arizona. I mean, I was going there anyway to be with family. And then to get this event organized, like Art One worked with me a great deal to get the word out. I remember, and again, we had a really awesome turnout. So I was grateful because that could have easily not happened, right? Like it could have been we were sitting there with the painting and nobody showed up, but thankfully people did show up. I got, the kids, the students of the Autism Academy sent me this really heartfelt mail afterwards with drawings that they made. They each had like a pirate themed drawing, and they sent me that with like, thank you notes, and I was really touched. And so it was just I think a great opportunity for me to sort of paint something again that was for a different reason.
Definitely. So, did you seek feedback to that painting of yours or
um,
reflect to it?
feedback like as I was making it.
Yes.
I did. So my roommates were always with me, and yeah, so they would look at it often. Um, I didn't get well, yeah. So I did have to get it approved, right? So the idea. I remember emailing Art One Gallery, telling them, "Here's my idea. Here's kind of the themes that I'm going for, and you know, please provide any feedback. Please give me any thoughts, before I sort of, pull the trigger and start painting it, right? So it
Yes.
is a it is a kind of piece when you're working with a lot of people, you have to coordinate. And so this was one example, one painting that I really had to coordinate with other people. Usually if usually it's just you and the painting, but in this case, it was working with a few people, but they were all really great about it. Amy Floyd, again, was on board the whole time, and so was Art One. But had they given me suggestions or, I would have taken them for sure, given the importance of this.
Definitely. So, Mr. Sal, to wrap up our discussion for today, so to all the paintings that you discussed, the previous episode, how did you choose the subject or theme of your artwork?
The subject or theme is based on something that it goes through a screening process for me. If it's something that I really feel is worth pursuing, I'm at the point in my artistic journey where if it's not something I'm totally invested in mentally, I'm not going to do it. Right. So if it's something that I feel is contributing to my collection of work, my body of work, I will do it. But I have to be totally invested in the idea. Does that make sense?
Makes sense,
Yeah. Like
Mr.
I'm
Sal.
very particular.
Yes, Mr. Sal Cosenza. Thank you so much for sharing your paintings to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book as well as your paintings?
Yeah, so thank you. My book is available at Changing Hands Bookstore in Tempe, Arizona. If you want to go local, it's also on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Walmart and but
Yes.
yeah. So, and again, I always urge you to reach out to Daniel and myself. Let us know what you're working on. I'd love to hear new ideas. Like, what are you doing? What that question Daniel had, how do you get started? Right? Just
Yeah.
get started. Get going. Paint something.
Yes, people, if you have a comment, suggestion, or rejection, please write to us. DSL_STI7 at iCloud.com. We are happy to accommodate your, well, letters, emails, or whatever you want to prepare. So I want to invite you people to please do listen to my other podcast, Book 101 Review, in its fifth season. Fifth season, people. Book 101 Review is number one on PadMatch. So please do support my Book 101 Review. My feature author of the month, Miss Angela Henry, award-winning and best-selling author. So please do listen to our latest episode, Just What I Did Today. So please do listen, Book 101 Review, wherever you listen to podcasts. So Mr. Sal, thank you so much for your time.
As always, thank you, Daniel. It's been a treat. Have a great week, everyone.
More to come, people. See you soon.